Hello, everyone. So today is the new Facebook Live of Luma Health Insurance. I'm Alex, and I'm very happy to coming back from you and to talk about experience about COVID-19 in Thailand. So for this subject, I'm very glad to present Mr. Franck Fougere from Ananda Intellectual Property. So Frank, welcome and happy to see you.
Hi, Alex. Hi, everyone. Happy to be invited by Luma. Thank you very much.
So thank you for you first. You will share your experience. So at the beginning, maybe you can present yourself, where you are working and how long you stay in Thailand?
Sure. So my name is Frank. I've been in Thailand for 20 years. I'm an intellectual property lawyer. So my company does trademark protection, patent, copyright. We are lawyers, so we do see a lot of people, but believe it or not, it's not through work that I caught COVID.
Okay. So this subject we will see later on. So you will share your experience about COVID-19. So can you explain at the beginning what were the symptoms you got from the beginning of your COVID-19 illness?
Yes, I caught COVID on just the really early days of April. It was April 5th this year in Thailand. And really for the first week, I had absolutely no symptoms. I was told later on that because it is the British variant that I caught, this particular variant doesn't show much symptoms in the first days. And actually the strong symptoms I had came only 12 days after I contracted COVID. And most people that got it at the same time with me had exactly the same first week, almost without symptom, no fever, nothing. What I had a little bit, but I would not have suspected COVID at all, was a dry throat, a dry nose, and some small blister in the mouth, but no fever, no pain for the first days.
Oh, okay. So you didn't know at all you will get COVID, and from which reason you feel like COVID is coming, and you were pretty sure it was COVID, or how do you feel?
So I didn't feel anything, and the reason why I suspected I might have COVID was because I had a dinner with a group of friends, and one of the friends from that dinner developed symptom 3-4 days after that dinner. And so he wrote to all of us and say, guys, I have COVID, please go get tested because you may have got COVID as well.
Wow. Okay. So it's from your friends. Actually, it's most of the cases are like this. Friends or families. One of our friends or families get it, and then you have to get tested. So how long it took for getting a consultation? Because now you almost know you will have COVID because your friend have it. So how long it took to have a consultation, and did you test yourself quite quickly? How it works?
So yes, I got the news in the evening that my friend was positive, and because I had this very mild symptom, I started to think I may have it, right? But I was still hopeful. I did not. I was lucky to get an appointment just the morning after at the hospital. I went before opening of the Bangkok hospital in Pattaya. I was in Pattaya at that time. And really, I was one of the first person to get tested. There were quite a lot of people in the testing room. And to be honest, when I was there, I was more afraid to catch COVID while being tested than to have it.
Yeah, for sure.
I got the result 24 hours later, slightly over 24 hours later. And during that time, of course, I was completely isolated from my family. But unfortunately, that did not stop me infecting my 11-year-old son. Although I had spent only 2 hours with him, that was sufficient to contaminate him.
This is crazy. So you get tested when you had no symptoms, right?
That's right.
Small. So yeah, small symptoms. So can you explain when the symptoms are coming to you? How do you feel? What was the main symptoms, and the duration of some symptoms was much more longer than the others?
Yes. So after being tested, the hospital called me and said, you are positive, and of course I told my family at that time, and maybe I can describe a little bit before talking about the symptoms, about how the process was. The hospital called me, and then they asked me a lot of questions because they want to trace, the people that you have met, the places you've been, and they were very thorough in asking me a lot of questions. I spent almost 2 hours answering questions, preparing a timeline for the past 14 days. Every car I had been, every places, restaurant I had visited. Luckily for me, I had been mostly at home, so I didn't have too many questions to answer. But what was very interesting was that the first question they asked me was, have you visited an hospital in the past 14 days? And the second question was, have you been sharing a car with someone?
And of course, yes, you have a family, so this is quite tricky. Yeah?
But these two questions, led me to believe that actually the people who are tracing the case, they know quite well that you have higher risk of having been contaminated if you have visited an hospital. So these are areas where you need to be extra careful. And of course, if you are taking public transportation, taxis, and sharing cars with other people, especially if you do not have masks. And then they proposed to send an ambulance to pick me up. And that is what they were still doing beginning of April. I don't know if this is still the case. But the policy at that time was to isolate people. Everyone who tests positive for COVID had to go to an hospital. Now they are been changing a little bit, and you can choose between an hospital or an hospital, which is a hotel, which is maybe a little bit nicer. But for me, I had no choice. It was the hospital. And the hospitals in Bangkok were already full. We were, I think, April 11, something like that. And everything was full, was Songkran. And so I checked the hospitals in Pattaya, all the good hospitals.
You have to check by yourself?
Exactly, because couldn't find an hospital in Bangkok. And what they proposed to me was a public hospital in Bangsamung, in the district of Pattaya, which I had no interest to go. I really wanted to make sure that I would have a proper hospital. And luckily, I still find a room, and I drove by myself to check in at the Bangkok Hospital Rayong. And my son tested positive the day after, of course. And so we both ended up sharing a room for 2 weeks for my son, a little bit longer for me, and I will tell you why. But the policy was 14 days in hospital. I have to say it's quite impressive when you arrive at the hospital, and it is quite a difficult moment. First, they are waiting for you. You park your car, and there's already people, wearing all the protective gear, waiting for you. And then you enter a world of no physical contacts. During the 2 weeks in hospital, nobody enters the room. You do yourself your medical checks, temperature, oxygen, blood pressure. And that is particularly difficult. I was very unlucky to have a room without a proper window, so I couldn't see the sky, I couldn't see the light. And I felt like I was in jail for 2 weeks. The hospital was fine, the service was good, but it was very depressing to not being able to have a proper human contacts, and then not to be able also to have a window. So if you ever check in an hospital, the mental is very important. Make sure you have a good room, a good view.
Can understand.
Talking about symptoms, the first day in hospital, no symptoms. then, unfortunately for me, I started to have very strong symptoms after about 4 or 5 days in hospital. So about 12 days from the day I was contaminated.
Okay, and just one question about your children. So most of the people say that the children have no symptoms. It was the case for yours?
Yes, that's correct. So my 11-year-old son had absolutely no symptom, no
Okay.
fever. He did not cough. Honestly, if he wouldn't have been tested, we would never have known that he had COVID.
No, that's crazy. That's the thing. We still do not understand why they are stronger than us. So it's a good news because we are like quite close with our children for sure. So as I understood, you was not accepted in the first hospital. So you've been to another one. The process was smooth, or you did it all by yourself?
So I did it all by myself because it was my personal choice not to go to a public hospital. I had seen the
Okay.
pictures, on TV, and I was also confident that my insurance would cover the costs for the hospital. And health is important. This is a clear message that I want to give today. If you are tested positive for COVID, you might think that you could stay at home and, at first I thought I would be better staying at home. I was really sure I would be bored to death in hospital. And actually, being in hospital is what probably helps me to still be able to deliver this speech today, because when the symptom kicked in, I was absolutely unable to take care of myself. I passed out. I had very, very high fever. My oxygen levels were dropping. And within hours, I had the pneumonia starting, with both lungs having a viral pneumonia. And it is a very, very stressful time when you start to see all the forces in your body leaving you and you cannot breathe properly. And that was a very, very difficult time for me in hospital.
Okay, I can feel it that it was quite a long time for you. And about your children, so you leave the hospital before you, right? So
Yes, it
how
did.
does it work? So you manage the transportation, sorry, or how does it work as well?
So here, luckily, my wife had tested negative. It's a mystery, but she didn't get it. That was the only good news, and she could come and pick him up. And then after he left the hospital, it was still recommended to spend another 14 days at home in quarantine. Because in some very rare cases, some people having spent 14 days in hospital could still test positive or could still have COVID. So currently the rule is 14 days, but it is actually recommended not to have contacts with many
Contact.
people right after leaving the hospital. So they recommend another 14 days in quarantine.
Okay, and we talk about your experience and also the way you've been to the hospital. But my question is also, can you comment on the management of the hospital regarding the nurses, regarding the doctors, the way they welcome you, if everything, because we know out there, like the Thailand is very, very good regarding the medical management in the hospitals, as even more in the private hospital you've been. So can you give some comments, and also can you rate it on 10, for example?
Yeah, so I think, as everyone would probably say in Thailand, you're right. The hospitals are really good. The food, the service, the medical advice, the attention that you have is extremely good. So I had no bad experience with the hospital, except that because it is COVID, it's a very strange time that you spend in hospital, because again, you don't have doctors, coming for visits. You cannot have visitors. But I was lucky that I could order food, from outside of the hospital sometimes. So that was nice. And also because of the pneumonia that I had, I could see they were very efficient in bringing in the room the X-ray to take some pictures. And I also had to do a CT scan of the lungs. And they basically, closed one part of the hospital. I had to go on a wheelchair, in specific allocated elevators and things like that. So I felt like VIP treatment from the first day and to the last day. I have to say that the doctors are very courageous. Also, the frontline workers in dealing with COVID patients. And that was a positive side.
Yeah, this is Thailand actually. We are always impressed of the level of management of all the hospitals, and thanks to all these hospitals to help people who have COVID and also all other illnesses. So at Luma, we bring positivity for during and after COVID. So our last part of our Facebook Live is positive aspects of your experience. And my first question is at the end of this long period of time, what is this experience bring you personally, professionally, with your family overall? What was the positive aspects?
Well, I think the positive aspect is, I'm a 44-year-old person. I've never been really sick or in hospital before. So I could never really relate to people who are sick. Today, I'm very happy that I went through this and that I walked out of the hospital alive. One of the reasons why I'm making this testimony today is to warn people. One of my friends died of COVID, a very close friend. And so I want to tell people to be very careful. But at the same time, you're absolutely right. We have to look at the positive side. The positive side, I think, is it made me realize that health is very important. Obviously, having a good insurance is extremely important. The bill for me and my son was around 240,000 baht, which the insurance paid fully. And that was a big relief also. We always think, the insurance is expensive to pay. Yes, it is. If you just pay and you're never sick, which was the case for me before. But actually, when there is something like that, and you don't have to worry about the cost, and you can really focus on recovering and getting better, this is very important. So health is important. That's probably the number one lesson. The second one is family and friends is extremely important. During the time you're sick, you see really the best from people who love you. They wish you to go well, and that really gives you also the energy to get better. So I wish no one to get sick, but if you do get sick, try to look at the positive side. Think about the importance of the mental. It's very important. Stay positive.
Okay, that's a great thing. We have a question in our Facebook Live from Hugo. Did you afraid for you and your family when you contracted some symptoms, and what was your react when your friend said to you that he is positive of the COVID-19? How you react, and did you breathe out wow, I should manage it quite quickly, or I would wait?
Yes. I was not afraid for friends and colleagues at work because I had no contact with them. So I was just concerned about my family and about the friends that were with me at the same dinner where we all got COVID. I was really concerned because at that particular dinner, more than half of the person who were there, so about 10 people, all tested positive. So it was very, very contagious disease. And although we spent just a couple of hours together, most of all, we all got COVID. And we were all in the hospital at the same time, and the news were very different. Some people had no symptom and were actually staying at home. We were happy for them. Some older people ended up in ICU and then with respirator, and unfortunately, one person from a group of friends died. And we had all this news, and I think to some extent, the psychological impact was stronger than the medical illness or the symptoms that we had, at least in the first part of the time we spent in hospital. There's been so much going on about COVID. We've been reading day and night about it. No other disease maybe has captured so much our attention. So there's so much fear and there's so much unknown. So when you're in hospital, first you have a few hours where you start to realize that you have it. And the second is really the fear that you're okay now, but tomorrow might get worse and you might die of it. So although I was telling myself, you're young, you have no health issue, you will be fine statistically, I couldn't help but thinking, what if, And of course,
maybe because you work in a low company, so maybe you think about stats as well.
That's true, but we always say, how do we say? In French, we say les cordonniers sont toujours les plus mal chaussés. The shoemaker are always the ones with the worst shoes, and it's exactly the same for me. I had no meal prepared or anything, and I was like, oh my God, what's going to happen? For my family, for the company. So actually, after I left the hospital, I started to change, the name of people who are actually authorized to sex and things like that. I never thought about it before, but that was.
This is the point also for an insurance, because we can cross the road and talk with people, and they say, oh no, I don't need insurance. It's okay. I'm 25 years old or 30 years old. I'm in good shape, so no problem. And you never know what can happen. So everything related to health, we all have to be very wary and very careful, because one day to another it can change. So yes. I will be back. I will be back on the positive aspects. Did you know you were that strong against this illness? Because we talk about the illness, and yours was pretty strong. So did you know that you were a Superman?
No, I don't think I was. I don't think I was Superman, but I know that from day one, I was in hospital. I had support from a lot of people who called me and say, stay positive, and they really sent me this strength. One person that I would like to thank particularly is Dr. Gérard Lalonde, who was calling me every day, to say, stay positive. Did you take your vitamins? And in fact, taking vitamin D, B, C, zinc is actually very good. Even before you catch COVID, make sure you have a good immune system already boosted to mitigate the impact of the infection should you get it. And I was trying to exercise in the hospital room, even when I was feeling really bad. I was really trying to get better, and I think it's. Okay. If it's Superman, it starts with the mind, thinking I will go through that. I don't want this to be the end. So, get better.
Okay, this is the good mental. And so you talk about Dr. Gérard. So Dr. Gérard is our chief medical officer at Luma. So just a small apartment, like all the members, Luma members can get access from the second medical opinion. So it depends on your policy, but normally you can ask for a second medical opinion. He can give you advice like he did for Franck, and it's always very helpful, because he know how to talk to you when you are like very down and you want advices. He can help you a lot. So this is important to check also on your policy if you have the second medical opinion. And Dr. Gérard is one of the best French doctor here, I would say.
Yes, and for me it was very important to be able to talk to him in French. And I don't want to say something negative about Thai doctors, but first there is a language issue. So when talking to them, there's only English, and they are doctors. They cannot tell you much about COVID, so they say, okay, you're gonna take this medicine for this amount of day, and then we'll see if you get better, and that's it. they're not going to tell you you're gonna get better, because honestly, they don't do that. In the French system, maybe the doctor understands a little bit more the importance of the mind, and so to have a chance to talk to a doctor that speaks your language and that tells you, don't worry, it's normal. Other people have the same symptoms. You will be fine. Make sure you do this and that. Drink, exercise, breathe well, eat well. All these little recommendations, they really help you a lot, because you think, okay, I'm making progress, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. When you have advice and why you take these pills, because these pills will get you better, and all this kind of advice, it's always better to get it from someone who speaks your language first, but also know how to explain, because sometimes they just say the word of the medicine. It's very long and it's from nowhere actually, and we cannot know what it is. So it is pretty important to get like explanation and detail of what we are taking here. So another question about positivity. Do you see now life differently nowadays, or do you have any feeling after this COVID-19, positive feeling, I would say?
Yes, absolutely. So, first spending 14 days in a room without, seeing the sky, which was really probably the worst experience for me. When you go out, you realize the world is so beautiful. We're so lucky when we are in good health, when we can just stand up, walk. And of course, you feel somehow connected to all the people who do not have that chance, people who can't walk, people who are in hospitals, people who have much more serious health issues. And then you're thinking, you start to think you're very lucky, you're blessed actually, when you're healthy, when your family is healthy, when you have money to pay the bills. So all the worries that you have all the time when you're not sick, clients, work, kids, education, paying the bills, all of this.
All these things,
It's the things that pollute your daily life that actually are not so important. So for me, clearly, it was a good wake-up call. I work too much. I don't move enough. I'm getting overweight with age. I know it really makes me feel like I should take better care of myself, because I don't want to be a burden also for my family. If you want to take care of them, start by taking care of yourself. And I think that was very clear for me, that if you want to help your family, it's not about how hard you work and how much money you bring at home, but it's how much time you spend with them, and how healthy you are, so they don't have to worry about you not being here in the next 20 years.
Yeah, that's completely true. And we all have to stay safe and save our family. So it's always better if you can bring some healthy tips to your children and to your family at all. What do you recommend after this period of time regarding your insurance, regarding how to stay safe? Do not focus on small things. Do you have any recommendation from your personal experience?
Yes, so be smart, be smarter than I was. Certainly, we all know that it's a disease that you can get very easily. So wear the mask. Try to limit as much as possible contacts with other people. This happened to me because of a dinner. So dinner is a moment where you remove the mask and you drink, you talk face to face, and it would not have happened if we did not have that dinner. How important it is it to have a dinner? I don't know. For me, I know now that I have completely stopped having meetings, and my social life is really, really quiet right now. I definitely do not want to catch it again. So yes, be smart. Make sure also you have a good information. There's a lot of things going on about COVID, and some sources of information are a little bit questionable. There's no cure for COVID. The doctors tell you that. You witness it firsthand. So even though you hear this herb can something that taking vitamins will protect you, yes, but just remember, try not to catch it in the first place. That's the basic thing. And then make sure you're healthy. The healthier you are, the more likely you will, if you have it, the more likely you will be able to walk out of the hospital in a good condition.
Yeah. My last questions regarding positivity. You talk about your habits, and now, did you change your habits regarding professional and personal life? Do you spend more time with your family? Do you do some sports? What changed actually?
So changes are small because unfortunately I still have long-term effects of COVID, and this is also something I want to warn people. I still have some brain fog. I feel a little bit out of breath from time to time. Mild symptoms, but people who have had a little bit of a severe case of COVID have these long-lasting symptoms even 2 months after having COVID. So I'm still not back to sport as much as I want. But yes, I'm trying to eat healthy. I used to smoke, and luckily for me, I had stopped before catching COVID. And I think that played a very important role. I was 20 years a smoker, never wanting to stop. My wife stopped smoking about 2 months ago when I was in hospital. She felt if she has it, she doesn't want to, have it worse because she was smoking. So she made a change. And yeah, I can only invite people, who have an unhealthy life, who work too much, who do not move enough, to change their habits. Being healthy is the best protection you have against illness.
So at the end, what we can say is like you bring positivity after the COVID-19. Of course, you had a very difficult period of time during this illness, as most of the people. But at the end, is positive, bring you to your family, and also you think differently, less work, and like think about you and yourself first. And I think is nothing much more important than ourselves actually. So yeah, it was my last question. I don't know if you want to add anything regarding any kind of things. Of course, positivity, yes. But if you want to say anything else, just I leave you the floor.
Thank you very much. No, I think I've said pretty much everything. Just remember to take care of yourself, so that you can take care of others. I think for me that's really the main message. And yes, be smart, be knowledgeable. There's so much we can do to mitigate the impact. Should you get it, don't be scared, because fear doesn't help. But just be smart. That's it.
Okay. So thank you very much, Franck, for sharing your experience, and also for joining our Facebook Live. So Franck Fougere has come from Ananda Intellectual Property, and I really would like to thank you. I also would like to thank all the audience and all the people asking questions and give some comments about Dr. Gérard. Thank you a lot, and hope to see you soon. When everything is going well, we can have dinner all together. But for the moment, stay safe. Take care, guys, and hope to see you soon. Bye-bye. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alexander.